welcome to Chalk Talk. I'm Chris Evans, joined today with Superintendent of Guthrie Public Schools, Dr. Mike Simpson. Always appreciate getting an opportunity to talk with you.
It's always fun talking with you, Chris. You never know what's going to come about.
That's exactly right. And there are some fun things happening, some informative things happening with the school bond coming up on April 2nd.
Yeah, we've taken the needs that we have for the district, and we've taken them through another long-range planning process with community members, and then we've taken them to our administrative staff, and then we've taken them through to the Board of Education. And then this is the presentation that you're going to see in a little bit is what we're going to put forth to the voters about all the projects that we feel like we need, that are desperately needed for Guthrie Public Schools and our facilities.
And of course, major successful in 2015. There's a lot of similarities between these two.
There really are. We've got an elementary school in here. It's a replacement of Cotterell Elementary. We determined really about 5 years ago that probably the best course of action with Cotterell would be not to renovate, rather to replace it on site. And then we've got a lot of technology, and we've got a lot of school safety items trying to secure our schools from at the entrances so that people can't walk into the building, they have to go through the office. And so that's really the things that we're looking forward to try and keep our kids safe and give them the best environment we can for a proper education.
And you're about to go through that here in just a few seconds, but it feels like there's a lot of momentum right now, not only in the community of Guthrie, but in Guthrie Public Schools.
Well, one of the things that we're proud of is this last bond issue. You know, we went to the public without a track record. We didn't have a track record of success. We had a large tax increase. It was 18% on the average for the taxpayer. This is a lot more modest tax increase, and we have a track record of getting things done on time and under budget. And that's the thing that we're most proud of with this past bond issue.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of the great details of this one. Again, voters are going to go to the polls on April 2nd and get to express their vote on this upcoming bond election.
All right, Chris, thanks. We'll get right to it. We have a presentation here today about the bond election that will be on April 2nd. The goal is to enhance the environment of our students, and we'll be doing this through several projects that were identified. Some even were identified before the last bond election, but we're going to try and address those, and I'll take you through this. And again, we want to continue to address the maintenance issues that were with our facilities, and we want to improve the safety of our buildings across the district. One of the key components of this bond plan is secure entrances to all of our school sites. We think that this bond plan will also assist in our goal to ease in-town traffic congestion. We accomplished a lot of that with our switch from grade centers to neighborhood schools. We think we can enhance this, especially around the Cotterell Elementary building. And the next thing, we want to prepare for future growth with our school district without the use of portable classrooms. The time to prepare for that growth is not when the students arrive, but before they get here. And so the question, why does our community need this? And it largely centers around history. And this picture is the original Logan County High School. It was built on the location where Fogarty Elementary is currently. And it's not really this history as much as it is this history. And when you look at the failed bond issues that we've had, we went basically 10 years without passing a bond issue, and we have older buildings that we had to defer maintenance on, and a lot of these, especially the ones that have over 50% of voter approval, it signifies that it was those were projects that were obviously needed, that the community supported, but they didn't support to the level of a supermajority, which is required for bond issues to pass. And in May of 2015, we passed the largest bond issue ever passed by the school district at $16.2 million. And we had almost a 77% pass rate, which is the highest pass rate since the bond election in 1977. So it was a significant day for our school district and a significant time. And the key element there, it came with a large tax increase of 18% to the voters and the property owners inside the Guthrie Public School District. But when you look at the high passage rate, I think it shows that the community was in support of that, and we want to try and continue that. And we did not take that lightly, and that's why you'll see in this presentation we have worked very hard to make sure that the projects contained in the May 2015 bond election were carried out as we promised. And so looking at the growth of our district, the The high watermark of growth was in 2012-13, and we had a little bit of a dip in 2016-17. But what you'll notice with this trend is that even though it's leveled off and we're growing just a little bit, it's followed the trend of the economy in Logan County. And so we have grown when the economy has been robust, and we've lost a few students when the economy shifted downward. And a lot of that is due to the oil industry, and so we have to be prepared for those growth spurts. And then when you look at funding options that we have for this bond projects or any projects that we want to do for capital improvements for our district, we have a building fund that's generated by property tax, and we get about $630,000 a year that goes into that building fund, and of that, $300,000 we use for routine maintenance, and that's just to keep the buildings moving and keep them going. We spent about $230,000 on maintenance emergencies, and that is necessitated largely because of the failed bond elections, so it's not allowed us to be proactive with our capital improvements. And then we try to allocate about $100,000 towards special projects and repairs. We have a general fund, which is our large operating fund, and capital improvements can't legally come from this fund. About 87% of that, it goes towards salaries, which is pretty normal for a school district. And we have 9% that goes towards fixed operating costs, such as insurance, electricity, natural gas, things of that nature. And then a very small percentage of that is discretionary budget, and that's 4%. So we're left with bond issues, and that is where the district goes in debt, and then we repay that through an increase in property tax. They require a supermajority to pass of 60% vote, yes vote, and they're funded through property tax, as I said. You can bond up to 10% of the value of all taxable property within the district, which in our school district is approximately $13 million. And that is rising, and that's a good sign for the Guthrie Public School District in Logan County. And that's what I call our debt cap, or kind of our credit card limit, basically. And we can't ever go over that, but we can vote for a larger bond than what that is. And that's what we did the last time. We had a $16.2 million bond issue, and we sold the bonds and paid them off and then sold some more so that we were never over that 10% debt cap. And again, that's what this $19.25 million bond issue is structured as well. And so that's called a series bond, and bonds that are voted in an amount that exceeds bonding capacity but issued in a series as bonding capacity becomes available. And then we make sure that we never exceed that bonding capacity. When you look at where Guthrie is right now, we are at 14.12 in our sinking fund millage levy, and that's the money that we collect from the taxpayers to pay off those bonds. And when you look at our surrounding school districts, we are still very low, and you can see that Crescent, Deer Creek, Edmond are quite a bit higher than we are. We were at 0 when we passed this last bond issue, and the promise that we made to the voters was a 15.7. And we've never gone above 15. We've kept that below during these last bond projects. This time our target is 17 mills. And when you look at all of the school districts within the OKC metro area, you can see that we are quite a bit below most of them, especially the ones of comparable size that are showing some growth. And so we want to be mindful and conservative with our voters, but we still want to do the things that are necessary to provide a quality educational environment for our students. And the good news, like I said, is that we have never gone above 15 mills due to the extraordinary growth we've had in property values in our school district. And what you have to remember is some of that growth has been new property, and typically with that comes more students. And so that's part of what we're trying to do is prepare for that growth, as we have a huge opportunity of housing growth with the real estate in our district. And we've shown accountability. That's one of the things that we're very proud of, is we've shown accountability to our voters. And we, again, went to our voters the last time with no track record. And their trust is what we're trying to make sure that we continue to keep. And so the 2015 bond issue target millage was 15.7. You can see where we've been, and that we have never gone over 15 mills. So the question, will my taxes go up? And the answer is yes. And they're going to go up. For a $100,000 home, we estimate the taxes will increase it by $2.40 per month. And again, we have to estimate that because as our property appreciates within the school district, that could bring that dollar figure down as it did the last time. $150,000 home, we estimate the taxes will increase $3.60 per month. And so keeping that in mind, it's still well below Crescent, Deer Creek, or Edmond, or for the most part all of our surrounding school districts. And it's also well below the tax burden placed on Guthrie patrons in the successful 2005 bond issue that renovated Jelsma Stadium. So our schools today, we have school buildings that are in varied degrees of need, from desperate to cosmetic renovation. With the last bond issue, the district departed from purchasing surplus computing devices. In other words, we were buying computers from Edmond Public Schools when they determined they were obsolete. We have used bond funds now, and we are buying much newer or completely brand new computers as opposed to the 5-year-old computers that we were getting from Edmond. Our enrollment is increasing modestly, as is the city population. But this is the key thing, key bullet point here on this slide. The county population is growing at a greater rate than the state average. And again, we have more students. This was true in the last bond issue as well. We have more students that live outside the city limits than live inside. And if you don't get around our school district much, you're just inside Guthrie, you may not realize that. When I became superintendent, I inherited a lot of lease purchases such as for buses. We're now saving money in our general fund to buy those buses so that we're not paying interest rates on those buses. And I would much prefer to have a transportation bond and do things that way, and so that the general fund money could go into the classroom. But we have much greater capital needs, capital improvement needs with our buildings. And again, the construction pricing climate is very favorable right now. Interest rates, while they are inching up a little bit, are still much lower than generations ago. And so we want to try and capture with these projects the good market value that we can find with the current pricing. In 2015, we built the first new school in our district since 1989. We began the exterior restoration of Guthrie Junior High, and if you haven't been by that school, I would encourage you to drive by. That is the original, the older high school. Obviously, it was turned into a junior high back in the late 60s, and we have tried to restore that building. We did a feasibility study and determined that renovating that building was more cost-effective to the district for the purposes that we have than to build a new building that would serve the same purpose. We did a lot of work on the HVAC and exterior restoration at Central Elementary, and obviously that's on Noble Avenue, and the building really looks nice. And then we put new roofs on at Fogarty, Central, and Guess. And the current project that we have going on, this was contained in a lot of those failed bond issues in the 2000s, and it's to replace the HVAC for the central part of the high school. And because of the favorable pricing that we got on that, we're actually going to be able to air condition both competition and the North Gym with those funds as well. And one of the things that we've done that we're real proud of is we've made a lot of technology enhancements, our security systems and network upgrades, and we purchased a lot of student computers, and all of our teachers now have a new computer as well. And again, all this work was completed on time and under budget. And again, we've been accountable to the voters. And so what projects have we determined are needed most? And as we talked about in the intro, this was not done in a vacuum. We had community members that had a lot of input on this. Administration had a lot of input, and so did the school board. And the first phase projects to begin in summer of 2020 at Fogarty. This building was built in 1937, and so it's solid structurally, but it has a lot of the original features of a 1937 building that need to be renovated. Here you see the auditorium chairs, and when we went from grade centers to neighborhood schools, this is the auditorium that we use. It's the only auditorium in our elementaries, And so we did our Christmas programs in there, but you can no longer purchase parts for these auditorium chairs. We want to replace those chairs and enhance the lighting in there. The next thing is renovate the restrooms. And this is a picture of one of the restrooms that our students are using. You can see that the urinal, there's a urinal there that we've had to concrete in. There are a lot of plumbing challenges that we need to take care of in this building. In Fogarty, that work we estimate at $620,000. District-wide in this first phase, I mentioned the secure entrances. That's one of the very first priorities that we want to take care of. We've budgeted $750,000 to do that. And then classroom technology, and we've spread the technology dollars throughout this these bond phases. $150,000 in the first phase. Second phase, construction to begin in spring of 2021. Junior high, we want to continue the exterior renovation. We did the north side of that building. We want to go all the way around that building. And the building that we're talking about was built in 1924, and it's very stable and in good shape structurally, but needs some work and just needs some TLC around the rest of the building. The tuck pointing, waterproofing, more energy efficient windows. It's interesting. You talk to the teachers that have classrooms on the north side of the building. They talk about how much quieter it is with those windows and how much better the insulation is and the wind and the better environment for the students. And then in 1996, when the building was air conditioned, the chiller is now at the age where it needs to be replaced. And we estimate that cost at $1.2 million for that for the work of the junior high. In this phase, Guthrie Upper Elementary will get some improvements too. The building was built in 1989, and it's starting to show its age. We want to replace the 30-year-old chiller and the HVAC control system, which has, even though we've worked on it, it's become completely ineffective. And those classrooms don't have windows, so when we have heat and air problems there, we've got bigger problems because there's no way to ventilate other than the mechanical systems that we have that need work. And at the upper elementary, that cost is $171,000 for estimate. In this phase, $400,000 worth of technology for the classroom. And in 2023, the projects that we've identified, Guthrie High School, built in 1967, and the restrooms are really starting to show their age. We want to renovate those restrooms throughout the building. Again, they're 51 years old, and it needs renovation. That estimated cost is $450,000. In the junior high in this phase, we want to go in similar to what we did at Central Elementary and replace the air handling units and the piping that was installed in '96 and make it make the environment in those classrooms a lot more conducive to learning. Those are very loud units, and we want to replace them with more quiet units that can also have an immediate switch from hot to cold, as opposed to currently now you either have air conditioning or you have heating, and you can't switch that throughout the day. That cost is about $1.6 million is our estimate there. And then phase 4 projects to begin in spring of 2025. We want to begin to address Cotterell Elementary, and the question may come up, why don't we do this sooner? And it's simply about our debt cap of paying off the debt that we have that was used to build Charter Oak Elementary, and this is the soonest that we could get to that and not exceed that 10% debt cap. This building was built in 1950 with a permanent addition in 1972. That's called the Quad. And some of the community members will know that Quad was built in 1972 prior to the advent of career tech classes. It was built by the Guthrie High School construction class in 1972. We've obviously gotten our money's worth out of that investment. The new Cotterell Elementary, on the top of this site plan, that would be Noble Avenue, and we would take where the parking lot and playground are and build the school. It would be a 2-story structure and build it on site, a little bit tighter site than what we have at Charter Oak. We have about 25 acres there. This is about 12.5 acres that we have here. It would have a full-size basketball court gymnasium, so our junior high and high school teams could also use that for practice if need be, and would have a storm shelter in it, just similar to what we did at Charter Oak. And then demolish the current Cotterell building and put parking and a playground there, and have a better way to queue cars around this building. That's a real nightmare, I know, for the residents around Cotterell, and we want to try and make that a little bit better. One of the real challenges at Cotterell is that it has 2 classroom wings, and in the middle is a gymnasium, and the upstairs and then downstairs in a split level configuration is the cafeteria. And students with disabilities, it's really a challenge. We have lifts that are fairly reliable, but it's still not, it's just not conducive to students with disabilities, especially if they're not ambulatory. And you have to remember that in 1950, those students weren't in public school. The other concern that we have is here in this picture you can see that this is the quad, and there's no real security and there's no checkpoint for anyone to enter that classroom, and so that really falls back on the classroom teacher. We have peepholes in there and keep those doors locked, but you know, in 1972 when this was built, you just built schools a lot differently than you do today. And then the cafeteria, and this picture was taken during a chamber coffee with community members in there. There's about 50 or 60 community members in there, and we're talking about the weekly events going on in Guthrie. And that's, as you can tell, that looks very crowded. We feed almost 400 people in that cafeteria on a daily basis. And so the building poses many challenges in its current configuration. It was built as a combination elementary and junior high. This is an important bullet point here. The west side is the second fastest growing region in our district. Only the Seward-Waterloo corridor is growing faster than the west side of Guthrie. And we want to eliminate the need for portable classrooms for many reasons. Cotterell Elementary, the estimated cost is $13.2 million. And then in this phase, $150,000 worth of technology in the classrooms. And so you can see the summary of estimates there to get us, that takes us to $19.25 million. And you know, when we talked to the voters in 2015, we made a lot of promises, and as I said, we did not take it lightly, the trust that the community showed in the school district, in the administration, and the school board to deliver on what we said we were going to do. And we've completed those projects on time and under budget, and we've delivered on our promise, we believe. And again, accountability. And you know, this is, we started this work in 2015. It's a comprehensive plan and a long-term plan to try and provide a better education for our educational environment for our students. The future is bright. We want the future to be brighter. We've developed relationships with the City of Guthrie, the Guthrie Chamber of Commerce, the Guthrie Ministerial Alliance, all with the ultimate goal that our graduates will want to continue to live here after graduation. And you know, when I became superintendent, I heard a lot about Guthrie proper and South County and things like that. Bottom line is, we're one school district. We've got to serve all of our children regardless of where they live, and we have an obligation, we feel, to provide the best environment for that, and we have to do that through bond issues. And I ran across this statement after I'd started these presentations, but I thought it made a lot of sense to especially people that maybe are retired and they don't have grandkids or whatever in our school district, but they're community members. Are you willing to plant a tree when you know you will not enjoy the shade, but generations beyond you will? And I think that's a very profound question, and a question for all of our voters. So on April 2nd, I encourage you to go to the polls. Thanks for listening to my presentation, and hope you find your way to the polls.
Well, there you have the details of the bond election on April 2nd. Go out and vote. And there's there's going to be some more education on this bond issue as well in the coming days.
We'll have a public forum that will be at Community Church beginning at 6:30 on Tuesday, March 26th, and we'll have another community forum on March 28th. That's a Thursday night, and that will be at the Logan County Fairgrounds. Both of those will begin at 6:30. You'll have an opportunity to write down questions on an index card, and we'll try to answer those. You'll hear from school board members at each night as well. And we look forward, if you have questions or have interest, we look forward to your presence there.